My name's Paul Tilstone from Festive Road, and today I'm in conversation with Karen Hutchings from EY. Hello, Karen.
Hello, hi, nice to see you, Paul. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Where are you today?
I'm in the same place that I've been for the last 3.5 months. I'm at home in sunny Kilve in Somerset.
I love that you had to momentarily think about that.
You know what? It becomes when the highlight of your day is the fact that you get to do your hair before an interview. It shows how bad it's got, to be honest.
Well, I am glad to have helped then in that case. So thanks very much for joining us. We're talking today about preparing for the return to travel, and we've asked you to choose one or two components from the managed travel model. What is it that you've chosen?
So I've chosen people and planet for my discussion with you today.
Okay, fantastic. So I look forward to that. Before we get to people and planet, let me just ask you, can you give us an update on where EY is with the phase of returning to travel? What stages are you at?
So, I mean, for us, everything's really linked around our office openings, and there's sort of a sequence of events happening. So once the office opens, then we start to see some domestic travel. So if I think about where we're starting to see some volume, it would be in China, Japan, and probably Russia are the three key areas that we're starting to see the volume. I think, for us, as well, is you don't want to waste an opportunity that this can arise through such a thing that's happened. And so we've also taken the opportunity really to look at, can we bring in any new policies? So we're looking at what we're calling our Popup Policy, which is really just addressing some of the things that we perhaps wanted to look at before that weren't able to, and now proposing them as opportunities, certainly as we look to see how can we reduce some of our travel expenditure from where it was before. What I would also say finally is as well, this sort of mentality that we have of the stop, start, continue. So look at what should we carry on doing, what should we stop doing, and then what should we continue that we're already doing. So really, I guess those are the three key areas that we're looking at.
And I love that you talked about the stop, start, continue in the ITM conference, which was wildly successful. So congratulations to you and the team for that. It's such a simple concept, isn't it? But it just really forces you to think about actually a point in time. Why are we just continuing the way we have? It's a point in time where we can just actually pause and take a real look at what works and what doesn't, and whether we should be doing stuff anymore. I think it's really awesome. So when you get to the people and planet piece, why have you chosen those as the bits you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about them individually or together?
I'll probably talk about them all together, actually. And the reason why, for EY, sustainability is really high on the list of priorities, as many companies, but it certainly is a high list of priority for us. And our biggest asset is our people. And so if I think about, we have this concept now of a travel meetings and events program with purpose. Those two topics actually really do cover really a lot of what we're doing as far as managing our travel program and meetings and events program, I should add.
And when you say with purpose, how do you define that within EY?
So purpose really can be a number of different things. It could be around the sustainability targets and how we actually deliver to them. It could be around how we look after our people, the well-being of our people. It's also going back to sustainability, the well-being of the planet, but also around the other things that we do as far as running our program, i.e. how do we work with our key partners, our suppliers, and how do we interact with our peer set, etc. I think you can cover a number of different angles under that purpose banner. So, also, just to add, what we do in that LGBTQ community as well, diversity and inclusiveness, all of that for me rolls into this too.
Yeah, okay. And with your pop-up policy, how does that travel management with a purpose reflect itself in some of the changes that you've made in this pop-up policy you've created?
So the pop-up policy is very much looking about how do we continue to potentially not travel so much. And if you think about not traveling so much, reduces the wear and tear on our people for sure. It reduces our carbon because we're not flying so much. But then it also is looking at where are there opportunities for us to do things differently. So whether it be supporting potentially some more startups, entrepreneurs, smaller companies, or whether it be that we just make sure we deliver to what we are supposed to deliver to on targets set potentially by any of our suppliers. So again, it's many different angles that we can cover within that.
Okay. And when you talk about doing things differently, I mean, you've been known for the last couple of years for using robotics in a really effective way. Have you applied those robotics to this new pop-up policy and this new environment we find ourselves in?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we could have kept our employees as informed as they were when borders were closing down if we didn't have our robotics in place. I mean, they're now on our org chart. We've got 7 bots and they're actually named and they're on my organisation chart now. I think, though, it's that speed to market and keeping our employees informed. And as things were changing so quickly when the borders were closing, we were able to use them to actually be able to send out the communications for us on our behalf very quickly, because we had developed something that meant everything was updated within a 24-hour period. So when we think about when we're going to come back to travel and when we're going to start traveling again, we're going to use that same ethos to keep people informed of what they need to know as they start to travel. I think for us, having our employees prepared and know what to expect before they leave for the airport is going to be key. And that sort of rolls back into this well-being, our people, the planet, is making them informed so that they're not disrupted when they get back out on the road, because I think, there's a lot of unknowns out there, and we will do our best with the information that we have to make sure that our employees at least are informed before they actually leave for the airport.
I absolutely love that you've got 7 bots on your organisation chart. I think you'll have really hit the mark once we see them attending conferences within the industry. So that's on the business travel side. What about the transient side? So what about the meetings and events and the group side?
So that's been an interesting one for us. I mean, we've seen probably 1,400 events cancel as a result of COVID-19. And we have quite a large team within our function that manages meetings and events. What's been fantastic is to watch them pivot. So they've pivoted and become experts actually in the virtual events. And there's a big difference between a virtual meeting and a virtual event. And so, the team that managed previously the in-person events have now pivoted to the virtual event. And that's really where you have something that may be 2 days, may have, 1,000 attendees, 500 attendees. You need several breakouts. You need that type of things. You need a mobile app included, etc. But our team and I project managing that and bringing in the various departments that they need to from EY to be able to help deliver that. And I don't think you'll ever beat an in-person event. However, once you're not able to do them, business does still to continue. And so what this has enabled us to do is to still be able to connect, whether it be our people with each other or whether it be with some of our clients, to be honest. So, it's been a very steep learning curve. I'm not going to lie, for many in the team. But actually, though, I think that the strength of a team is that ability to pivot as well and not be afraid of the unknown, because I think this was a little bit of an unknown for many. But to watch them change and become these experts now has been wonderful to watch, I have to say.
I mean, I think that's all credit to you, Karen, because I know, having run the ITM, the association, for the last couple of years, you've become renowned for not being afraid to try different stuff. And I imagine you've got team members who have that type of mentality and they're encouraged to try new things. So, to say, it's all credit to you. What do you think some of the changes that you've talked about in the meetings and events side and the virtual component, some of the more reinforcement of people and planet on the transient side, do you think these are creating fundamental change in the patterns of travel and the patterns of meetings and events?
I think there'll be a big behaviour shift, actually, in that people will think more about, do they need to take the trip? Whereas before it could have been that they would just take the trip and then maybe get challenged or reprimanded afterwards as to why, but then it was done. I think now people will think about it more. I still think there's a reality, though, that you cannot beat the face-to-face, and that will never change. But I do think, though, as an example, groups of people needing to go for a client meeting, as an example, may not happen in the same way. And, we've all managed to do Zoom, Skype, whatever it may be, Microsoft Teams, over the last 3-4 months, and successfully, to be honest with you. I think as well, from a meetings and events perspective, I think it'll start off with small meetings, events happening, 50 perhaps. Then I think what you're going to see is hubs. I could imagine that you may have like London, Paris, New York hubbed. Rather than bring everybody together, you'll hub them closer. And I think, actually, to be honest, that's probably a discipline that could have been brought in before. I think, though, COVID-19 will accelerate that now a little bit more. And I think as we start to measure sustainability, carbon impact on doing that and the reduction, I think that will make people much more aware and perhaps make better decisions as a result of that. And I think, COVID-19 has really kick-started that. And as they say, you don't want to waste this opportunity either now to bring in some of that new discipline.
Yeah, it's like it's accelerated a lot of the patterns that were already beginning to emerge.
Yeah.
So what, if there's travel managers watching this, what piece of guidance would you give them? What lessons have you learned about reacting to this COVID situation and then preparing to come out of it?
I think, I don't think any of us could have imagined the impact it was going to have on the travel meetings and events industry. I don't want to say how many years that I've been in this business, but I've been through several different types of situations, but nothing has been like this one. I think, making sure that you speak to your suppliers, actually, and your partners there has become key for me, because it's been tough for them. And I think we underestimate how difficult it has been for them. And so we've done checkpoints with them just to keep connected and find out what's happening. Then on the other side, from an internal perspective, we've sort of shared extensively what we've been doing as far as reacting to COVID, the information that we've been gathering. So we've not been hiding behind anything. We've been very open and upfront with what we've been reading, what we've been learning. We did a survey with the airlines and hotels as an example, and we're sharing that information, which is going to be ready for our employees when they start to travel. So I think, always it's about making sure that you share information and don't hide behind facts that you have. I think for us, we were fortunate that we sort of had an emergency response plan in place that we had together with our security team. And so we sort of just kick-started that into this. What we have realized as a result is that the volume impact of this and the number of people that were impacted was a challenge for us to be able to deal with from a volume perspective. We had the plan, but it was just the sheer number of queries that were coming through when we didn't have all the answers as well some of the time. That was a learning. And so as a result of that, our Office of Security and us are putting together, and when I say us, travel meetings and events, are putting together a sort of help centre that'll be 24-hour coverage which will be used when there are anything like this again. But we're going to use it in general as well for any sort of security travel disruption alerts. And this is going to be a central team that is put together by both security and travel meetings and events, which we think then will help with the responsiveness, because the sheer volume that we had was hard for some of us to manage. And this way means that we've sort of got like a help desk that'll be able to help people in such situations, so that if there is a massive spike in an issue that arises, we've got something set up. And I think that was a key learning on the back of this. And we're going to use this, though, as we start to have travel meetings and events come back. And then security will use it for their own purposes and what information they need to be sharing of office openings, etc. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this goes. So we're just working on that now, actually, and hope to have that in place probably in the next month or so. I would say that will be up and running. And that's a direct output of the pandemic.
And is it a permanent, what did you call it, a disruption centre, or is it sort of a bit like the lifeboat service? It's people who've got other jobs, and when there's an emergency, the whistle goes and they're all called to man this disruption centre.
No, it's going to be permanent, actually, because, you know, the reality is there are travel disruptions happening constantly. And then also there are many situations that happen in cities, as an example, where our security team are having to do work. So we've sort of likened it that there may be a security specific incident. There could be a travel specific incident, and then there'll be an incident where we're both involved.
Okay.
So security specific would be there's a public action strike demonstration or something like that.
Yeah.
Travel only would be an airport strike, and then a terrorist alert of some description would be both of us. And so we've realised that that's going on constantly, and this then just frees up the teams to be the escalation point versus the sheer volume. Now, being candid, we use robotics a lot to do a lot of the initial communication anyway. And then we have people managing the real in-depth detailed things that need to be managed in those sort of situations.
Okay, really helpful advice, I think, to companies out there that maybe they've got a disjoint between the security response and the travel response. I think it's a really smart way to go. So thank you very much, Karen, for joining us. I won't take up any more of your time down there in sunny Somerset, but thanks ever so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you for having me, as always, Paul. Always a pleasure.
Okay, great. So thanks for joining us and watching this set of interviews. Don't forget you can get access to the Permissible Travel Framework on festive-road.com, and we look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Thanks.